regulation of respiration. So we have just done with dorsal group of neurons which are inspiratory in nature, whereas ventral group of neurons are both inspiratory and expiratory in nature. Then we are going with the other centers, that is pneumotaxic and apneustic center. I hope you are able to hear me, both of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now coming to this apneustic center. So apneustic center is now this blue one. So it is situated in the reticular formation of lower pons. Okay, and apneustic center increases depth of inspiration by acting directly on, see here. This has direct connections with dorsal group of neurons. So whenever apneustic center is stimulated, it will send the information to dorsal group of neurons. We know dorsal group of neurons are basically concerned with inspiration, the deep inspiration. Okay, so that is how they are controlling. That is apneustic center. Then we have pneumotaxic center. So pneumotaxic center is situated above this apneustic. So it is formed by the neurons of medial parabrachial and subbranchial nuclei. That means the nuclei present there. So function is pneumotaxic is to control the medullary respiratory centers, particularly dorsal group of neurons. It acts through apneustic center only. That means here pneumotaxic center controls apneustic, then apneustic controls dorsal group of neurons, one below the other, you can see. The first pneumotaxic center gets stimulated, it goes and stimulates the apneustic, and then apneustic centers stimulate the dorsal group of neurons, and that's how inspiration starts. Okay, beta? So we have experimental evidences also for this, but you need not take the experimental evidences. So that is all about these respiratory centers that are main. Then the other things are shown like efferent pathway and afferent pathway. Efferent means what? The nerve fibers from respiratory center leave the brain stem and descend into the which part of the spinal cord? That means these are the descending tracts, beta, efferent. They are going and innervating the lungs, intercostal muscles, diaphragm, so that the movement of the respiration is taking place. So this efferent pathway that is being carried through phrenic nerve, which supplies the diaphragm, intercostal nerves like T1 to T11, which supply the external intercostal muscles. Okay, the afferent pathway, the peripheral chemoreceptors and baroreceptors. I hope you remember this. We have peripheral chemo and baroreceptors which were seen at the arch of aorta and at the bifurcation of common carotid into external and internal carotid arteries. So from there you have seen vagus nerve and glossopharyngeal nerves come and they carry the information to the brainstem. So they are also carrying information here for the regulation of respiration. Okay, so this is actually integration of respiratory center is now how the respiration is controlled. Whatever we have studied just now, no, that is all being discussed again. So many times the points will be repeated. You just read once, you will definitely understand. Then see here, this recently I have explained you for 5 marks or 3 marks Hering-Breuer's inflation reflex. This is actually protective reflex, I said. So there is, see, our lungs are like balloons. They should not stretch beyond the limit. If they are stretching beyond the limit, then they rupture and break. Now see here, inspiration. So the tidal volume, suppose if it is beyond 1 liter, that is 1000 ml, then stretching of lungs, then stimulation of stretch receptors in air passage, then impulses are passing through vagus nerve, then inhibition of dorsal group of neurons. So if this dorsal group, we know dorsal group of neurons are concerned with inspiration. Already a lot of air is present in the lungs. It is more than 1000 ml. Our lungs cannot take air more than this. So what is happening? The dorsal group of neurons are inhibited. So further inspiration is stopped. Okay. So that protective reflex is nothing but Hering-Breuer's inflation reflex. Okay, beta? Write this much, that is more than enough for this answer. Okay. Do you remember nitrogen narcosis? Again, respiratory system.
Ma'am, is it like in respiratory system?
Yeah.
Is it related to casein sickness?
Yeah, yeah, beta. Deep sea diving.
In the diving, in the self-contained underwater breathing
Scuba.
apparatus.
Yeah, very good.
Scuba diving.
Scuba diving. What is happening?
In the apparatus, there is, I think, 80% nitrogen and 20% oxygen. And due to that, nitrogen poisoning will take place.
Yeah, that is excellent. Perfectly correct. That's what is nitrogen narcosis. Okay, now we will go with deep sea physiology. Here you will come across nitrogen narcosis. Okay. So nitrogen narcosis is nothing but, see here, we are like nowadays it has become very much like scuba diving has become very much popular. And people, they want to go out and they want to experience some different things. So under scuba diving is nothing but you are taking an apparatus, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus is usually taken, and it contains mixture of gases, okay, and it also contains nitrogen. So suppose if nitrogen is taken excess by the body, then it will lead to certain symptoms which are not so much favorable, and that's what is called as nitrogen narcosis. Okay, unconsciousness or stupor, which is produced by drugs. So stupor is lethargy with suppression of sensation and feeling. So it means narcotic effect which is produced by nitrogen at high pressure. So here in the scuba diving, you see the nitrogen is given in the scuba apparatus under high pressure. So breathing compressed air is essential for a deep sea diver and an underwater tunnel worker. So in order to equalize the surrounding high pressure acting on thoracic wall and abdomen. Now see here what happens in case of this nitrogen narcosis. See, barometric pressure and its effects at different depths. Now, if the person is going at the depth of 33 feet, 66 feet and 100 feet, the atmospheric pressure is going up to 3 mm of mercury, and person is very much convenient, comfortable, and he will not have any symptoms. But if he is going deeper in sea, he is going 100 feet, then symptoms of nitrogen narcosis will appear. Okay, if he's still going like more deeper, 133, lack of concentration, he of course enjoys that movement and he starts becoming careless and he goes much deeper, 166, where the atmospheric pressure is 6 mm, and he starts feeling drowsy. Okay, beyond 200, then feels fatigued, weak, and again careless, and 233, depth still deeper, loses power of judgment, unable to do skilled work. 266, deep, from the sea level, you see, he becomes unconscious. So this type of changes we generally see in nitrogen narcosis. Okay, this has, everything has been listed, but you better go with this table. It becomes easy for you to type it. First symptom in the depth this much, in the depth this much, and all. So how to prevent? Instead of adding only nitrogen to the scuba apparatus, we can also add some other gases like helium. So helium is used as a substitute for nitrogen to dilute oxygen during deep water diving. So helium also produces some effects like nausea and dizziness, but it is much better than nitrogen better. Okay, that is. So nitrogen narcosis can be prevented by limiting the depth of dives. So we should be very careful, like if you are planning to go with such type of excitement. Okay, so that is all about. So treatment, always see here, when we bring them back to the atmospheric pressure, we should try to bring them very much gradually. Not all of a sudden, we are not supposed to bring back to the atmospheric pressure. We should again see that they are brought back from 9 to 8, 8 to 7, 7 to 6. That means a special room will be created for the people to bring back them to this pressure. Okay, 7 to 6, 5, 4, 3 to 1, in this way. Okay, that is treatment. Symptoms of nitrogen is completely disappearing when the diver returns to the depth of 6 feet. Suddenly, if he is brought back to the normal atmospheric pressure, what happens? Air embolism can happen. That means air may enter into the blood vessels and that air bubbles may block somewhere in the cardiovascular system, and the air embolus can also cause heart attack and person may die. That's why we should bring him back to atmospheric pressure gradually, not all of a sudden. Okay, beta? You have special rooms to bring them back to normal atmospheric pressure. Read this once, it's quite interesting. Okay. Then we are moving to next question. Blood groups. We did recently, no, beta? Ritika, do you want me to repeat, or is that fine if I move to next question?
It's fine.
No,
It's fine. Not fine for you
Yes,
too?
ma'am, it's fine. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then exocytosis. Good, good. Exocytosis is an example of, best example of secretion of any juice, gastric juice, pancreatic juice. Okay, we will see the mechanism. Beautiful diagrams are given. Exocytosis, in first chapter itself, first few chapters. Yeah, here I think we have phagocytosis, phagocytosis. See here, beta. Exocytosis. You just think like these are pancreatic cells or gastric, you know, the columnar cells which are concerned with the secretion of gastric juice. Any cell like this. So these cells are basically concerned with the secretion of some secretory vesicles which gradually move towards the surface. Okay, and the cell membrane is opened up, that is ruptured at the surface, and the secretory vesicles are released. Okay, that mechanism is nothing but exocytosis. Okay, and of course it is an active process only. ATP is utilized. Okay, calcium is also utilized. Okay, small only, just draw this diagram and try to explain. That is exocytosis. Surfactant, peptic ulcer. What is peptic ulcer, beta? This twice I told you, if you remember.
Ma'am, it is it occurs due to the bacterium Helicobacter pylori.
Very good. Any GIT disturbance, right from gastritis
Affects
to
the
gastric
enzyme
cancer.
urease.
Okay. Ritika, what is basically peptic ulcer? How do you define it? Yes, but Imad, you are 100% correct, but the key point is missing in your answer. But
Um,
okay, but not a problem. Ritika, you can you recollect something? Again, peptic ulcer is essay question for pathology second year. You should know the definition correctly, beta. Okay, now you please don't forget. I'll tell you. Good diagram and checking. See, ulcer along the lesser curvature of the stomach and first part of duodenum. You just think like this. Please remember this picture. See, why along the lesser curvature? Ulcer along the lesser curvature of the stomach and first part of duodenum. Together you call it as peptic ulcer. Whereas gastric ulcer means ulcer in the stomach itself. Okay, peptic ulcer is ulcer along the lesser curvature of the stomach and first part of the duodenum. Now, why this area is more prone for ulcers? Now, if you remember the anatomy part of the stomach, see in the lesser curvature of the stomach, you will see there is a canal, no? Canal of Magenstrasse or gastric canal, through which all whatever liquids or whatever alcohol or like carbonated beverages, whatever we take, they generally don't go into the lumen of stomach. Through this small route directly along the lesser curvature, those beverages or liquids, they move into the duodenum. That means if we take carbonated drinks or if we take Pepsi, Thumbs Up, Coca-Cola, alcohol, whatever drinks which are harmful to our body, they move along this gastric canal, which is along the lesser curvature, and they immediately move to the first part of the duodenum. Okay, because of which the ulcers are more prone. And moreover, at least the mucosa of stomach has resistance against acids. But the mucosa of duodenum is very sensitive. That's the reason in the duodenum we have pancreatic juice rich in bicarbonate, isn't it? The bicarbonate will neutralize the HCl when it is entering into the duodenum. Otherwise, duodenum will get ulcerated due to the effect of HCl coming from the stomach. Isn't it better? So that's what. I hope this is clear now. Peptic ulcer meaning?
Yes, ma'am.
See, peptic ulcer means erosion of the surface organ due to shedding of inflamed necrotic tissue that lines the organ. Wall of the stomach or duodenum caused due to the digestive action of gastric juice. Okay. So it's I told better than this, but our pathology book has given very good information. Okay. See, causes increased peptic activity, secretion of more HCl, hyperacidity, reduced alkalinity of duodenal content, decreased mucus secretion in gastric juice, constant physical emotional stress, food with excessive spices, smoking, okay, long-term painkillers like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like Brufen, aspirin, naproxen, okay, chronic inflammation due to Helicobacter pylori, like Imad said, always remember in whole of the GAT pathology, you will come across this bacteria. From simple gastritis to gastric carcinoma, the culprit is always this bacteria, Helicobacter pylori. The clinical symptoms the patient presents is nausea, vomiting, blood vomiting, that is hematemesis, heartburn, that is burning pain in the chest due to regurgitation of acid from stomach into the esophagus, loss of appetite, that is anorexia, and loss of weight, that is cachexia. Okay, beta? So that is all about peptic ulcer. Surfactant also I discussed very recently. Do you want me
Yes,
to?
ma'am. I
Ritika?
think it's okay. It consists of dipalmityl phosphatidylcholine.
Choline.
It is
It lines the.
synthesized by the type 2 dust cells in the
Huh.
lungs.
Okay. Type 2 alveolar epithelial cells, which are also called as dust cells. Very good. It lines the inner membrane of the alveoli and
Alveoli.
it will not let the alveoli to collapse. It will
It
maintain the.
reduces the surface tension.
It reduces the surface tension. It maintains the elasticity of the alveoli. And suppose if it is not secreted, especially it gets secreted only after 28 weeks of intrauterine life, more safely, because of which the newborn babies, premature babies, they will not have surfactant and they need some support before their lungs mature, isn't it? That's why they are given under some respiratory support immediately after birth because surfactant is not produced. Okay, so what do you call that condition where surfactant is not produced? Neonatal respiratory distress syndrome, isn't it? Neonatal respiratory distress syndrome. Suddenly in adults also, sometimes these dust cells, what you said, or type 2 alveolar epithelial cells may not work. They may stop working. In such conditions, surfactant is not produced. In such conditions also, we may suffer with ARDS, adult respiratory distress syndrome. Okay, beta? Ritika, is that
Yes,
fine?
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, beta. So micturition reflex also we did. What is micturition reflex? There is a flow chart, right? So we have certain innervation of the urinary bladder. Those nerves, they get like stimulated and the urinary bladder will contract. The internal urethral sphincter will open. The urine will be passing through the urethra. External urethral sphincter will open and the urine is allowed to go outside the body. That is micturition reflex. I hope you remember me discussing this answer better. I'll show
Yes,
you the
ma'am.
flow chart again.
Okay.
Mhm. It's a very simple flow chart better. In the renal system. See here, beta, maturation reflex. See this flowchart. See, this is the diagram which you are supposed to draw, because you learn this picture very important, because innervation of urinary bladder, nerve supply of urinary bladder is also very important. This is the internal urethral sphincter. This is the external urethral sphincter. External sphincter is voluntary, under our control. When we are ready for the process, then only it will open. Whereas internal urethral sphincter is involuntary. Okay, so urine is allowed to pass through the urethra and it is let out. So some series of steps are given: filling of urinary bladder, stimulation of stretch receptors, afferent impulses pass via pelvic nerve, sacral segments of spinal cord, different impulses pass via pelvic nerve, contraction of detrusor muscle, flow of urine into urethra. Okay, so that's avoiding of urine by the relaxation of external sphincter. Okay, you please write this and draw the diagram. You'll get complete 3 marks. Okay, dietary fiber also we discussed so many times. Can you tell me about dietary fiber? Fiber is not digested in our gastrointestinal tract. But despite of that, fiber is so important because it adds bulk to what we eat. It retains water in the gastrointestinal tract. Okay, and it softens the fecal matter and it allows easy passage of fecal matter and prevents constipation. In long run, it prevents colon cancer because it prevents constipation. It's very good. Of course, dietary fiber will also prevent the absorption of certain vitamins, because it nothing but it is an oxalate. We have studied when we were doing certain vitamins, no oxalates, they form insoluble salts and it will not allow the vitamins to get absorbed from GIT. Okay. Then role of abdominal muscles in respiration. What are the abdominal muscles involved?
External oblique, internal oblique, and transverse abdominis.
Very good. You can also add diaphragm also, beta.
Okay.
So those action of those muscles. Okay. Intrapleural pressure, there will be some reading between the parietal and visceral pleura. Some negativity is there. Always it will be negative because it has to suck the air into the lungs. That pressure inside the pleura is intrapleural pressure. What are anticoagulants?
Anticoagulants include heparin.
What do they do?
And ethyl diamine tetracetic acid.
Okay, EDTA.
Sodium oxalate. And yeah.
Okay. What was the question from respiratory system?
Warfarins and dicamorol.
Okay. Intrapleural pressure, no? We'll check the pressure once.
Value, ma'am.
Value. 690. Inside the pleura, that's what is asked, no, but intrapleural pressure. Inside the pleura, whatever pressure is there, that is the intrapleural pressure. This one. See, this is parietal pleura outside, visceral pleura inside. This is the pleural space. Inside the pleura, whatever pressure is there, that is the intrapleural pressure. How much is the reading? It's always negative, see. At the end of normal inspiration, it is -6. At the end of normal expiration, -2. The end of forced inspiration, -30. And the end of forced inspiration, -70. Okay. Try to remember either 2 or 4 readings. Enough. Okay. Anticoagulants will check once. Okay. Anyhow, Imad told us the list. Anticoagulants are the agents which we use in the lab to prevent the blood clotting when we are doing some blood investigations. The natural anticoagulant which is present in our blood, which prevents the clotting inside the blood vessel, is heparin. We know that. Apart from that, we have EDTA, sodium citrate, sodium oxalate, and so many other things. Is that fine, Ritika?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, beta. Then we will stop here.
Okay.
You don't have any. Do you have any engagements tomorrow at 12:30?
No, ma'am.
Okay, beta.